The holographic display cast an ethereal blue glow across Dr. Isabella Romano's otherwise darkened office. Outside, Seattle's perpetual rain drummed against the windows of her veterinary hospital, creating a soothing rhythm that usually helped her focus on late-night paperwork. Tonight, however, her attention was fixed on the impossible message floating before her. Dr. Romano, the crystalline text read, "Your reputation for saving Earth's most challenging cases has reached the Vexarian Empire. We require your expertise immediately. The fate of our world depends upon it." Isabella ran her fingers through her silver-streaked black hair, wondering if 72 hours without sleep had finally caught up with her. The message couldn't be real. Yet there it was, complete with credentials from the United Earth government's newly established Interstellar Relations Division. "Computer, verify authenticity," she commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The system hummed briefly before confirming the message's legitimacy. Isabella leaned back in her chair, her mind racing through the implications. In 15 years of veterinary surgery, she'd saved countless lives, from tiny hummingbirds to massive elephants. But an alien creature, that was beyond anything she'd imagined possible. The message continued to scroll. "Our sacred guardian beast, keeper of Vexarian traditions and protector of our people, lies dying. Our healers are powerless to help. We have observed Earth's medical achievements, particularly your groundbreaking work with cross-species organ regeneration. You are our last hope." Isabella's gaze drifted to the wall of her office, where certificates and awards hung alongside photos of her most memorable patients. Her fingers unconsciously touched the pendant at her neck, a gift from her late mentor, who had always pushed her to embrace the impossible. "Time is critical," the message concluded. "A transport awaits your decision at the Seattle Interstellar Terminal. You have 1 hour to accept." The rain intensified outside, matching the storm of thoughts in Isabella's mind. The scientific opportunities were unprecedented. A chance to study alien biology, to push the boundaries of medical knowledge beyond Earth's atmosphere. But the risks were equally monumental. No human had spent more than a few days in alien territory, and those were trained diplomats, not civilian doctors. Her computer chimed again, displaying vital statistics of the guardian beast. The readings were unlike anything she'd seen. Multiple hearts, a crystalline skeletal structure, and blood that seemed to pulse with its own light. The creature's life signs were deteriorating rapidly. Isabella stood, her decision crystallizing. She'd taken an oath to heal, and that oath knew no planetary bounds. Within minutes, she had packed her specialized medical kit, including her experimental regeneration equipment and adaptive surgical tools. A quick message to her head nurse would ensure the hospital ran smoothly in her absence. The journey to the Seattle Interstellar Terminal was a blur of rain-slicked streets and racing thoughts. The facility rose before her like a silver needle piercing the clouds, its construction a testament to humanity's first tentative steps into the galactic community. Inside, she was immediately escorted to a secure area by officials in crisp uniforms bearing the United Earth insignia. They briefed her quickly. The Vexarians were an ancient civilization, technically advanced far beyond Earth's capabilities. Their guardian beast was not merely a creature, but a living link to their past, present, and future. Its loss would devastate their society. Dr. Romano, a tall woman in a military uniform, addressed her. "This mission is completely voluntary. We cannot guarantee your safety once you leave Earth's jurisdiction." Isabella tightened her grip on her medical bag. "Then it's no different from any other day at my practice," she replied with a slight smile. "Where's my transport?" The answer came in the form of a shimmer in the air, as a section of the terminal seemed to fold in on itself. A doorway appeared, leading to a corridor that gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence. Standing in the threshold was a figure that made Isabella's breath catch, tall, elegant, with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. The Vexarian bowed slightly, geometric patterns rippling across their surface. "I am First Guardian Zirith." They spoke, their words translated by an unseen device. "Thank you for answering our call, Healer Romano. Will you come with me?" Isabella took one last look at the rainy Seattle skyline through the terminal's vast windows. Everything she knew, everything familiar, lay behind her. Ahead was mystery, danger, and the chance to make history. She stepped forward. "Lead the way, First Guardian. We have a patient to save." As she crossed the threshold, Isabella felt the weight of her decision settle onto her shoulders. The door sealed behind her with a whisper, and she found herself surrounded by technology beyond her wildest dreams. The transport hummed with energy, preparing to carry her across the stars to face her greatest challenge yet. What she didn't know was that saving the Guardian Beast would be only the beginning. Forces within the Vexarian Empire were moving in shadow, and her arrival would spark events that would change two civilizations forever. But for now, Dr. Isabella Romano focused on what she did best, preparing to save a life, no matter how alien it might be. The Vexarian capital emerged from the darkness of space like a dream made manifest. Towering spires of living crystal stretched toward the triple moons hanging in the violet sky, their surfaces refracting starlight in hypnotic patterns. As the transport ship descended through layers of iridescent clouds, Isabella pressed her hand against the viewport, mesmerized by the alien cityscape below. "Welcome to Crystallos Prime," First Guardian Zirith announced, their color-shifting skin pulsing with what Isabella had learned to recognize as pride. The heart of the Vexarian Empire for 10,000 cycles. The ship gracefully navigated between the crystal towers, each structure seeming to sing with a different harmonic frequency that Isabella could feel in her bones. The medical equipment in her bag hummed in response, as if awakening to new possibilities in this alien environment. Their destination loomed ahead, the Imperial Sanctuary, a massive structure that appeared to have been grown rather than built, its crystalline formations spiraling in impossible geometries. As they landed on a platform that materialized from seemingly thin air, Isabella noticed signs of tension in Zirith's usually composed demeanor. "Before we proceed," Zirith said, their voice lowered, "you should understand something. The Guardian Beast's illness. It is unprecedented. In all our recorded history, no Guardian has ever fallen sick. Some believe this is not natural." Isabella absorbed this information with growing concern. "Are you suggesting intentional harm?" "I suggest nothing," Zirith replied carefully. "I merely wish you to be aware." They were met at the platform by a contingent of royal guards, their armor flowing like liquid metal around their bodies. At their center stood a figure whose presence commanded immediate attention. Command Sentinel Thex, head of the Imperial Security Force. Unlike other Vexarians, their skin remained a constant, deep purple, marked with geometric patterns that seemed to shift position when Isabella wasn't looking directly at them. "Human healer," Thex acknowledged with a slight incline of their head. "You will be escorted directly to the Guardian's chamber. Time grows short." As they moved through the sanctuary's corridors, Isabella noticed the architecture responding to their presence, passages opening and closing like the chambers of a massive heart. But she also noticed something else, the way other Vexarians shrank back as they passed, their skin colors dimming to muted tones. Fear, she realized. These people were afraid. The Guardian's chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows despite the bioluminescent crystals that lined the walls. In the centre lay the massive form of the Guardian beast, and Isabella's medical instincts immediately kicked into high gear. The creature defied easy description. It seemed to exist partially in dimensions Isabella's mind couldn't quite grasp, its form shifting between solid matter and pure energy. What remained constant was its obvious distress. Portions of its crystalline hide had dulled to an alarming grey, and its multiple hearts beat in discordant rhythms she could see pulsing beneath its transparent skin. "Magnificent, isn't it?" A new voice spoke, rich with authority. Empress Nixara emerged from the shadows, her form more radiant than any Vexarian Isabella had yet seen. Even in its weakened state, the Guardian's power is breathtaking. Isabella bowed, remembering the protocol Zirith had drilled into her during their journey. "Your Radiance. I will need to begin my examination immediately." "Of course," the Empress said, but made no move to leave. "You should know, Dr. Romano, that the Guardian is more than a mere beast. It is the living embodiment of our connection to the crystal flow, the energy that powers our civilization. If it dies, that connection dies with it." As Isabella unpacked her equipment, she noticed subtle tensions in the room. Vex had positioned guards at every entrance, their attention focused not just outward, but inward as well. Zirith stood slightly apart from the other court officials, their skin rippling with colors that seemed to indicate anxiety. Her diagnostic scanner, modified during the journey to interface with Vexarian technology, revealed readings that made her blood run cold. The Guardian's cellular structure was breaking down at an atomic level, but in a pattern that seemed oddly deliberate. "Your Radiance," Isabella said carefully. "These readings suggest the Guardian's condition isn't the result of natural causes. The degradation pattern is too precise, too targeted." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Empress Nixara's radiance dimmed slightly, while Vex moved closer to their sovereign, hand resting on their weapon. "Are you suggesting treachery?" Vex demanded, their constant purple darkening to nearly black. "I'm stating medical facts," Isabella replied firmly, years of dealing with difficult situations in her practice coming to her aid. "And if I'm going to save your Guardian, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Someone has introduced a sophisticated biochemical agent into its system. Someone with intimate knowledge of Vexarian biology. The implications hung in the air like invisible crystal shards. An inside job. A threat to the very foundation of Vexarian society. And Isabella had just placed herself squarely in the middle of it all. Empress Nixara's voice cut through the tension. "You will have whatever resources you require, Dr. Romano. Whatever you discover in the course of your work will be considered a matter of highest imperial security." Her gaze swept the room, landing meaningfully on each person present. The Guardian must be saved, regardless of the cost, or who might be implicated. Isabella turned back to her patient, her mind racing through treatment possibilities, while also processing the political powder keg she'd just stumbled into. The Guardian's largest heart gave a particularly arrhythmic beat, sending cascading failures through its system. Warning crystals throughout the chamber pulsed red. "I need a sterile field established immediately," she commanded, pushing aside political concerns for medical necessity. "And I require access to your biological archives. If someone engineered this attack, the cure might be hidden in your own scientific records." As the chamber burst into activity, Isabella caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows above. Just for a moment, she thought she saw a figure watching, its skin not shifting colors at all, but rather absorbing light like a living void. When she looked again, it was gone. The race to save the guardian beast had begun. But Isabella was beginning to realize she was treating more than just a patient. She was trying to prevent the collapse of an entire civilization. And somewhere in the crystal spires of Cristallo's prime, someone was working just as hard to ensure she would fail. 3 days of non-stop work had left Isabella exhausted, but more determined than ever. She stood before the holographic display in her makeshift laboratory, analyzing the latest test results, while the guardian beast's condition continued to deteriorate in the chamber below. The crystalline walls around her pulsed with a sickly rhythm, reflecting the creature's failing health. "Another failed attempt," she muttered, watching the simulation show yet another treatment breaking down before it could counter the mysterious toxin. Behind her, First Guardian Zirith shifted colors in what she'd learned to recognize as deep concern. "Perhaps we should consider," Zirith began, but was interrupted by the laboratory doors sliding open with a crystalline chime. Command Sentinel Thex strode in, their purple skin now almost black with tension. "We've had a security breach," Thex announced without preamble. "Someone accessed the ancient biological archives last night, records that were sealed by imperial decree centuries ago." Isabella straightened, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. "What records specifically?" "The archives of dissolution," Zirith whispered, their skin paling to an almost translucent state. "Documents from the Great Purge, when our ancestors had to eliminate certain evolutionary branches of Exarian life that grew too powerful." The pieces started falling into place in Isabella's mind. She pulled up her latest analysis of the toxin attacking the guardian beast. That's it. The compound isn't just attacking the guardian's current form. It's activating dormant genetic sequences. Whoever designed this isn't just trying to kill the guardian. They're trying to trigger an ancient evolutionary regression. The implications hit the room like a physical force. If the guardian beast reverted to a more primitive, dangerous form, it could destroy the very civilization it was meant to protect. The perfect weapon for someone wanting to bring down the Empire. A subtle movement caught Isabella's attention. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. Acting on instinct, she dove forward, pulling Zirith down with her as an energy beam sizzled through the space where they'd been standing. The laboratory erupted into chaos. Dark-skinned figures emerged from seemingly solid walls. Vexarians whose pigmentation had been artificially locked, marking them as members of the supposedly extinct Shadow Sect. Vex's guards engaged them immediately, their liquid metal armor flowing to protect vital areas as energy weapons discharged around the room. "The data core," Isabella shouted, scrambling toward her research station. 3 days of critical analysis and testing. She couldn't lose it now. A Shadow Sect warrior moved to intercept her, but years of handling large, aggressive animals had given Isabella better reflexes than they expected. She rolled under their strike, coming up with her medical scanner reconfigured to emit a pulse that disrupted their optical camouflage. The warrior staggered, their active camouflage shorting out. Isabella seized her chance, grabbing her data core and diving behind a crystalline column as return fire peppered her previous position. She clutched the precious research to her chest, mind racing. The data held more than just her analysis. It contained proof of who had accessed the ancient archives, who had engineered this crisis. Dr. Romano. Zirith's voice cut through the chaos. "The secondary exit. Quickly." Isabella caught sight of a small portal opening in the wall behind her, barely visible in the chaos of battle. She made a break for it, but stopped short when she heard a pained cry. Vex had taken a direct hit, their armor struggling to compensate for damage to their primary color nodes. The doctor in her wouldn't allow her to leave someone injured. Despite Zirith's urgent calls, Isabella changed direction, sprinting to Thex's position. Her medical scanner was already shifting configurations, ready to assess the damage. "Leave me," Thex growled, trying to push her away. "The research is more important." "I don't abandon patients," Isabella replied firmly, quickly applying a crystal-based sealant to Thex's wounds. "Not on Earth, and not here." Something shifted in Thex's expression. Respect, perhaps, or surprise at this display of human loyalty. With Isabella's help, they managed to reach the portal just as more Shadow Sect warriors breached the laboratory's main entrance. They emerged in a narrow crystal corridor that spiraled downward, apparently an ancient maintenance tunnel. As they caught their breath, Isabella's mind was already racing ahead to the implications of what had just happened. The Shadow Sect was supposedly wiped out generations ago. Zirith said, their colors swirling in agitation. For them to return now, and with such advanced technology. They had help, Thex stated grimly, checking their weapons. High-level help. Isabella pulled up the data she'd managed to save, projecting it into the air between them. "Look at this, the toxin's design. It's not just based on the ancient archives. It incorporates recent research too, cutting-edge work from the Imperial Science Academy. Someone's been planning this for years." The projection highlighted a name that made both Vexarians freeze. High Scholar Vix, the Empress's most trusted scientific advisor and keeper of the Imperial archives. "It gets worse," Isabella continued, her voice tight. "Based on these formulas, I don't think the Guardian Beast was their only target. The toxin was designed to spread, to infect the crystal flow itself. They're not trying to kill just the Guardian. They're trying to sever every Vexarian's connection to it." The implications were staggering. Without the crystal flow, Vexarian civilization would collapse. Their technology, their very way of life, depended on that connection. A distant explosion rocked the tunnel, sending crystalline dust jarring down on them. The Shadow Sect was closing in. "We need to reach the Guardian Chamber," Isabella said, already moving. "I think I know how to save it, but we'll need access to the primary crystal flow nexus. And we'll have to expose Vix before." She was cut off by another explosion, this one much closer. The crystal walls around them groaned ominously. "Run," Thex commanded, taking up a defensive position. "I'll hold them here." "But your injuries." "Run." This time it was an order, backed by the full authority of the command sentinel. Isabella hesitated for just a moment, then nodded sharply. She and Zirith sprinted deeper into the tunnel as weapons fire erupted behind them. The fate of an entire civilization now rested on reaching the Guardian Chamber in time, and on exposing a conspiracy that went to the very heart of the Empire. The race against time had become a race against betrayal itself, and Isabella was running out of both time and allies.